But I want to raise a question this morning. What is it that God has put in you that you've been sleeping on? What is it that God has put deep, deep down inside of you that you've gone to sleep on? Let me just say, what am I talking about? Say, I was watching this documentary and they were talking about a particular funeral. And the funeral, everyone was taking it so hard. They were grieving hard. And so there was a lady that was supposed to sing a solo, but she was overcome with grief. And another young lady, because the other woman was overcome with grief, she just slid in and began to sing Precious Lord. And when the pastor got up to give the eulogy, he says, baby, you've been sleeping on that gift. You've been here all your life and we've never heard you open up your mouth. Somebody under the sound of my voice has been sleeping on something that God put inside of you. And some of us are sleeping on it because we're listening to the wrong people tell us what they think we ought to be doing with our life. If you have relationship with Jesus for yourself, Jesus will speak to you about your life for y'all better hear what I'm saying in this church. Stop listening to folk who don't even have a relationship with the Lord try to tell you what you ought to be doing with your life. Somebody in here, you better get to writing that book. Somebody in here, you better inspire and motivate. Somebody has a musical gift. Somebody has an acting gift. Somebody has an administrative skill. Somebody in here, can't nobody make that strawberry cake or caramel cake like you can. See, some of y'all laughing, but some of y'all been sitting on your anointing, and the very thing that God has placed in you, God will use to take care of you. How many folk know what I'm talking about in this church? What is it that you're sleeping on? Because let me tell you something, saints of God, some of us, we got to wake it up. What are you talking about? For some of us, we've got to work a workable plan. When you realize what you've been sleeping on, get you a plan that you can work. Don't come with some lofty out there in South Texas plan. You get you a plan that you can work. And don't let folk disqualify your plan, because God will take you through the A's, B's, and C's of your plan. And if you have to go back sometime, you'll have to repeat point B to get to point C. But thank God it's worth the repeating, because if God tells you to repeat it, how many folk know that if God tells you to repeat it, then God's going to bring something out of it? And every now and again, you can't move at everybody else's pace. Sometimes you've got to move at God's divine ordered pace, and sometimes God's divine ordered pace brings with it a level of frustration. Sometimes you'll have to cry. Sometimes you'll have to go through pain. Sometimes you'll have to walk by yourself, but you're still not by yourself, because if God has put something in you, God has promised that he will always be present. How many folk know what I'm talking about? People may not be present. You may not have a lot of money. You may not have a lot of resources, but when you've got down to your bare minimum, God has a way of using your bare minimum to birth the miraculous out of. Somebody in here knows what I'm talking about today. Work a workable plan, but then saints, the A in wake it up. Ask for assistance. See, let me tell you the truth. Where you're trying to go, somebody else has already been there and gotten there. And they're just waiting on you to ask them for some assistance. I'm talking about people who don't mind sharing with what God has done and what they had. Because see, there are two categories, and some of these folks are in church. See, there's some folks that don't mind sharing. But then there's another crew they hogging it all to themselves because they don't want you to do no better. Oh, I've met some folks in church like that. They don't want you to do no better. They don't want your children to do no better. So they're not going to help. But let me tell you something. Forget about them. Let them go on, because see, God's got a way of even dealing with them, because some folk really think they got something, but they could have got more if they just simply opened up themselves. I'm talking about the people who say, this is what I had to go through. Now, if you go through it, I'll be there to help you when you go. I'm talking about the people who say, now I'm going to pray for you. You call me if you need me to show up, because sometimes you need some people who can show up and speak up on your behalf, because some people know some people who know some people who know three more people who know five people over here. How many folk know what I'm talking about? Because when you got relationship with the right folk, sometimes relationship with the right folk let you skip 6 of the points to get to the next place. But you better open up your mouth and ask somebody for assistance. Just ask the right person for assistance. Ask for assistance, but then the K in wake it up means Keep yourself accountable. It's good to have an accountability buddy, but sometimes the accountability buddy is going through some things too. You got to learn how to keep your own self accountable. Tell your own self no. Tell your own self get up and get busy. Tell your own self stop making excuses. You need to get to the gym and get on the treadmill and keep walking and talking to the Lord. See, some of us, we give ourselves excuses not to, and as long as you keep giving, I know I'm preaching in this church today. As long as you keep giving yourself an excuse not to, you'll never get up and do anything else. But then the E in waking up means enjoy your fruits. When you get to the place where you've labored and toiled and sacrificed and gone without, cried, wept, had snot running down your face because your heart, somebody knows about that kind of going through in here. When you arrive at that place, don't you let nobody tell you that it's ungodly to enjoy the fruits of your labor. I used to think that it was problematic when God did certain things in my life not to say anything because I didn't want anybody to think I was braggadocious. But let me tell you something, when God has done something for you, you better open up your mouth and tell somebody what the Lord has done for you. Is there anybody in Temple Church today who can recognize that God has certainly done something in your life? If there's anybody who has any kind of testimony, just shake somebody by the hand and tell them, God has been good to me now. Tell somebody else, God has been good to me.